Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Galileo from the Hotmail team, and this is
Nick Fillingham, Hotmail team.
Yeah. So we're here to answer all your questions. We had over 100 posts in the thread we opened up, and we actually separated the questions, and we had over 180 questions. We basically grouped them into how many categories, Nick?
About 20 kind of topics.
Okay.
Yeah, we thought everything basically broke down. All the submissions broke down to kind of 4 categories. There were questions about the current version of Hotmail, which we'll answer now. There were suggestions for things you'd like to see in future versions of the product, which we thank you very much for your suggestions, and we'll be passing those on to the engineering team. We can't really talk about them. We can definitely kind of mention what they were, but there's not a lot we can say. Some of you asked about things you'd kind of like to know about the future. Yep. Unfortunately, we can't talk about anything that hasn't been announced, but we'll do our best to obviously address all of those. And then a few of you actually had some bugs or some issues you were seeing, and we'll follow up with you guys offline for those of you with some kind of crazy things that we kind of haven't seen before. But yeah, we've grouped all the questions into about 20 different topics, and we'll try and go through them in some kind of order, and we'll kind of let you know who it was that asked those questions and how we kind of group them together.
Definitely. So let's kick it off. Go ahead.
So actually, the very first question, do you have that there? Because I think
I have the first question.
The very first question we got, I think, was great, and I think we should kind of start with that.
Yeah, sure. So Vice asked the first question, so thank you, Vice, for jumping in on so early, and asked, what do you consider some of the defining features of Hotmail that set you apart from your competitors, such as Gmail?
Mm-hmm.
And like Vice, we had a few other users who asked similar questions around Hotmail versus Gmail and all that stuff. And so one of them was PS Reloaded, another one was Winaxter. So thank you guys for the question. And so take it away. I mean,
well, I think this is something that you and I talk about quite a bit. And one of the things that you like to say, especially when we're out talking to folks in the community when we go to events, is we like to think that Hotmail has a different approach to email.
Definitely.
We think the Hotmail style is a little bit different. And for some people, that's their style, and they kind of relate to the identity, they relate to that experience, and what you get with Hotmail is something that they think is kind of suits their lifestyle and the way that they use their email and their files better than the Gmail experience. So I think the very first point is, do you like the Hotmail style? Do you like the Hotmail approach? Totally. And a lot of people do.
Yep, a lot of people do. Hundreds of millions do.
Exactly. And then the second part, which is something you also talk about at the events you go about, is the ecosystem and the Microsoft ecosystem. Yep. And if you do have multiple products or multiple services in the Microsoft ecosystem, we're talking about Xbox Live, we're talking about Windows Phone, we're talking about obviously Windows 8 coming out in the future. But having a Hotmail account, what we used to call a Windows Live account, obviously gives you access, or opens the door into that Microsoft ecosystem. Yeah,
and again, I think the great example that's out there today is both Windows Phone and Windows 8. Mm-hmm. And if you do have a Hotmail account that you use, and you have your contacts there and your calendar, and you've hooked up Facebook, once you put that Hotmail account into your Windows Phone and that first run experience, or even Windows 8, you see the magic happen, and it is really cool. That cloud-powered stuff where all your contacts come in, your emails come in, your appointments are there, your live tiles start, flipping and lighting up, and that's the point, right? Mm-hmm. A Hotmail account enables you this, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and the SkyDrive integration that's coming on,
it's great.
It's already here, and obviously it's more coming in the future.
Definitely.
That's awesome. So there's lots of other things. Some smaller things which are important to some users and not so important to others. Kind of folders is an interesting one.
Yeah.
Hotmail has traditionally always had folders or subfolders for how you can organize and manage your email. And that's something that Gmail doesn't have.
Exactly.
That's just their approach, is they don't use folders, or that's not the primary way they go about managing users' mail. So if you're someone that likes folders or needs folders, Hotmail has it. You have that option to use it if you want.
Yeah, and don't forget that with the recent update in December, we also added categories.
Right.
So we definitely give you the total flexibility, right? You can go with folders, you can go with just categories, or what Gmail users call labels, or you can mix and match both. Right?
Sure. We also have pretty robust Facebook integration. You can link your Facebook account, your LinkedIn account. There's dozens and dozens, and actually we had a couple of questions in here about contacts and how you can integrate other social networks. We have I think pretty good solution for integrating contacts from other social networks, linking them together, and being able to kind of access those other services. Yep. There's more on there, and we'll actually link to a blog post that talks about the difference. We'll talk a little bit more about Graymail, which is something that we, the Hotmail product team, are talking a lot about at the moment. Greymail, we'll get into that in a minute, but it's basically a term that talks about, that refers to the mail that you signed up for, the regularly occurring mail, newsletters, deals, social updates, stuff that you don't necessarily always want every single day, but there's fluctuating value in it. But it can also clog up your inbox if you leave your mail unchecked for a couple of days. Your social updates, your newsletters, your daily deals from Groupon, and all that kind of stuff can flood your inbox, and all of a sudden it's full of unread mail. So we think we have the best tools to handle that kind of stuff. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. That's another kind of key differentiator between Gmail and Hotmail. We had a couple of comments from people that said, I still have a Hotmail account or an old Hotmail account. It's not my primary account, but I still keep it. Why would I come back to Hotmail now, or why would I do it? And then a few other folks actually mentioned that they use that account for their junk. They refer to it as their junk account. We actually think this is kind of a cool scenario.
We love your
because Galileo loves your junk. We think that coming back to kind of Greymail. Now, Greymail, again, that's the term. Greymail is not spam. Spam is something very specific, or true spam, I think is the correct term. True spam is unsolicited, unwanted email. You didn't ask for it. You never gave your email address out. Someone's either stolen your email address or they've guessed it, and they're just sending you crap you don't want. And it's things like it's pharmaceuticals. It's
oftentimes malicious too, right?
Sometimes it's malicious. Sometimes it's they're trying to get you to go to a website and enter your credit card details, and they're not actually going to sell you anything. So there's something that we call true spam. True spam is a very, very small percentage of what people actually see in their inbox. Across all of Hotmail, true spam is now less than 3% in the inbox. And if you have an account that's 2 years old or newer, you probably won't see any. Yep. Older accounts will see more just because they're older and they've been around for a while. But that's true spam. Greymail is something different. Greymail is where you have legitimately given your email address to someone. What you laughing at? You want your junk? You laughing at the junk?
I can't stop laughing.
Greymail is where you've legitimately given your email address. You've signed up for a new web service, and part of that sign up, it's like, hey, do you want to receive a newsletter for us? And maybe you kind of didn't read that or kind of didn't pay attention, and now you're getting a dozen newsletters and social updates and that kind of regular content every day. So that's Greymail. We feel that obviously Hotmail has fantastic tools to manage that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But for those of you that are like, well, I still have a Hotmail account, it's secondary, I use it for my junk, we think this is a great scenario. We want you to go into that account, and we want you to go and turn on the sweep rules and schedule cleanup, because we reckon we have the best tools to manage that kind of email. Yeah,
and I can even tell you a true story. I was just in a meeting just now before we started shooting, and somebody I met at an event, right, a local businessman here in the Redmond area, and he had a Hotmail account for junk. He's got various accounts like most of us do. He's got 6 or 7 accounts or whatever. But he had a Hotmail account that he used for his Greymail, right? And so he came by our booth at the event, and we showed him the tools. And he's like, I'll give this a try. And he just told me right now, he's like, so I went in there one day, spent about 5-10 minutes setting up the schedule cleanup and the sweeps and stuff. And then when I logged in, a couple days later, there's only like 3 new messages. And he thought something was wrong with the account because he wasn't getting that quantity of messages he was previously. But again, it's these tools that we created, knowing full well that our users see 80% of the messages they get is Greymail, right? So we definitely have some great tools for that stuff.
Actually, we see tweets all the time of people that say, hey, I just logged into my Hotmail account, my secondary Hotmail account for the first time in a while. Oh my God, there's like 1,000 unread messages. Yeah. And that can be a little bit daunting. But, the sweep tool is kind of an interesting one. You can select, those 1,000 messages are probably only from maybe a dozen or 2 dozen senders. Yeah. They're not going to be from 1,000 individual senders. They're going to be from a smaller subset of that. So using the sweep tool, you can select those senders that have been sending you multiple messages. And if it is Greymail, hit sweep, and from there you can really easily send everything to the trash, send it to a folder, or set up some kind of other rule. And then the schedule cleanup, which is so easy to set up as well, you can say, hey, just keep the most recent message from that sender, or as a mail gets a certain amount of time, 3 days, 7 days old, or some other specific amount of time, delete it or move it to a folder. And so we talk about being able to conquer your Greymail in 60 seconds. There's a video that we can kind of link you to, and it's just a really quick demo that shows you an email account that has about 1,000?
1,000 messages.
It's over 1,000 unread messages, and you look at it and you go, I'm never going to be able to get through all this unread mail. And in less than 60 seconds, it's down to, I think, like 7 or 11. And those 7 or 11 are the more important messages, are the ones you actually want to get to.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, so when people say to us, why would I come back to Hotmail, or why would I start using my secondary account? Well, we think we have the best tools for Greymail. Greymail is 80% of what you receive, so we think you should check out Hotmail.
Definitely.
Cool. All right, so let's jump into the next topic. We had a lot of questions about account management.
Account management, yeah, a lot of questions.
And
so
some of the people there.
Account management. Vice again asked about account management. Greg Alto, Anthony D, Sila, Detection, Zynog, a whole bunch of people actually asked about account management. So yeah, again, thanks for those. The basic questions we saw were, let's kick off with retention policies, right? So account data retention policies. Just to be clear, our retention policy is 270 days.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you haven't logged into your Hotmail account for over 270 days, that account has been closed and deleted, right? There is some time frame there, a small window after 270 days, where maybe if you go to support and ask, you might have a chance of getting those messages back. But the reality is, don't count on it. Okay, and again, we feel that 270 days is plenty of time.
That's 9 months.
It's 9 months. If you haven't logged into your account, on purpose, you're not interested, then we really feel there's no reason to keep it around, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're not logging in some way, and you don't have to send a mail, you don't have to actually really do anything. You just need to log into your Hotmail account once every 9 months, and that keeps your account alive. And that's really not, you don't have to do a lot. But I think the thinking is, and there is a grace period of somewhere around 90 days after that, so it can extend out to a full 12 months. But if you're not using an email account at all in any way, shape, or form for a year, I think that's kind of where the thinking is behind the account retention and data policies. I mean, we get people talk to us all the time. They're like, "Hey, I had a Hotmail account from 5 years ago.
Yeah,
I haven't used it.
Yeah.
Where is it?"
Yeah.
And it's like, "Well, you haven't used it for 2,000 days." So obviously, we are going to assume if you don't use an account for a year or more, you don't want it, and that's why it gets deleted. We had a couple of questions that asked about backup strategies and kind of more operations questions.
Yeah.
Talked about how do we go about ensuring that we don't lose data, etc., etc. There's a really great post on the Inside Windows Live blog, or the Engineering Windows Live blog, that talks about, the title of the post is "A Petabyte a Week," and it talks about how the Hotmail engineering team manages storage and a transition from traditional kind of magnetic disks to solid state. Which is really interesting, because basically what they're doing there is they're dividing Hotmail data into messages, so the core body of a message, and then all the metadata that surrounds that. And all the metadata is the stuff that needs to be accessed really quickly.
Yep.
And so they're transitioning all of that metadata onto SSDs, which can do hundreds of thousands of read-write cycles per second, operations per second, and then keeping the message body on kind of the slower but bigger and cheaper storage. Right. It's really, really interesting. You should check out that post. We'll put a link on there if you want to learn more about it.
Definitely. Next kind of general question. Remember, these are all being grouped, and we had a few folks ask the same types of questions. Was consolidation or managing multiple accounts, right? And this could be a variation of both multiple Hotmail accounts, right? Or multiple services aggregated into Hotmail. So if you have your Gmail or Yahoo, you're aggregating, right? So again, the term we use is aggregating when you bring in another account. So there's a few ways to do this. The most basic way is when you aggregate the account through the options menu in Hotmail, you're literally setting up your second or third, your other email service as a POP account in Hotmail, right? So we'll use POP protocol to go over and bring over your messages. That's good. That's fine. What we would recommend, though, is setting up forwarding from your other email service, right? POP has its limitations. You won't get messages as quickly. For example, it'll fetch on a periodic basis. So it'd be great, let's say you want to bring your Gmail into Hotmail, right? Set up forwarding on your Gmail so that your most recent messages will come in automatically. You can then set up all the sweep and schedule cleanup rules and take advantage of all that good stuff. For your older messages, you can still leave POP enabled and it'll bring it in eventually. But what you can do that is even faster is you can just use like a desktop client, like a Windows Live Mail or even a Thunderbird if you want, okay? And you can set up both accounts, and then literally you can copy your Gmail messages, your older messages from your Gmail account, paste it over in your Hotmail account, sync that thing up, and all of a sudden it'll be in the cloud, right? So it's a great way to bring your older messages over if you want to, okay? But do know some folks experience this issue when they bring it in over POP. Oh, some messages aren't coming in, or they're coming in not instantly. That's just the nature of the POP protocol, right? That's why we strongly recommend you forward your messages in from other accounts into your Hotmail account.
And just an additional point there is about linking IDs. So if you have multiple Hotmail accounts or multiple Windows Live accounts, a good thing to do is link those IDs together, and that way you can quickly switch between accounts just by kind of there's a drop down on the top right. But then another thing is if you do have multiple Hotmail accounts, but you only use one as the primary, think about forwarding the mail from those kind of secondary accounts into the primary account. I mean that's what I do. I've got 4 or 5 accounts.
Actually, we'll talk about this a little bit later because we got asked about aliases, for example. Okay. But think about how you're using these Hotmail accounts, right? So let's say you set up, a second or third account just again for Graymail, right? We have the alias feature, which in your main account you can just go ahead and create a completely random email address in the Hotmail or live.com domains, right? So you can have Boogly Boo associated with your main account, right? And you can hand that out at will on the internets, right? And then when you start getting too much stuff, you just go ahead and delete that, that temporary alias, and you won't get that message again. So that's a really good way of having multiple Hotmail accounts, right? But those other accounts, those aliases, they're not Windows Live IDs. So you don't have to go through the trouble of logging in or maintaining them active or anything like that, right? We see a lot of people actually have multiple Hotmail accounts for that reason, for Graymail.
Sure, and they use aliases for things like just for shopping or just for bills, and it's another way you can kind of manage your incoming mail.
Yep.
We also had a question about telephone support for account issues, which was an interesting question. So I think the person was saying, I've had issues with my account in the past. Can I phone someone? Is there a telephone number I can call? Yes and no. If you log a request with support for Hotmail, so you have an issue with your account and you go and log a request for support, there are some scenarios where someone from customer service will call you, and if you have your telephone number there and you've said, yep, please call me with this, you can actually be called by an escalation engineer that will help you resolve that issue. I think 9 times out of 10 or 99 times out of 10, most of the information that you need is going to be there in the support center, or there are various kind of automated prompts that you can go through and account recovery proofs that you can use to solve the problems that you have. So is there a telephone number that you can call directly? No, there's not. But if you do have a severe enough issue that needs a human, an escalation engineer, then when you log a request through support, a human will call you and will help you out.
And again, just to be clear, it's at Microsoft.com, look for support. Yep. That's where you go through that process.
Yep, definitely.
Okay.
Cool. All right. So the next topic is not one that we can really talk about because we just don't have anything to announce. But definitely wanted to mention it because a lot of you did have questions about the Hotmail user experience or the Hotmail user interface. It was really interesting to see that some of you love it, some of you hate it, and some of you, like certain things, would like to see other elements kind of changed or updated or particular features added. So do we have any? Do you have any names there?
Tons of shout outs here for the folks that asked about UI. So we have Zeke. Zeke asked many number of questions. We had Boba with 3 Bs. We had XP Client. We had Ronald T. We had Sanjay. We had GB8080. We had Zain Adil. We had Zacho. We had Veteran and others ask about just general all-up UI questions, whether, again, it's the experience or the interface itself, a whole bunch of those, and we'll try to address as many as we can, right?
Yeah, for those of you that had suggestions for things you'd like to see in the future, thank you very much. We have passed them on. For those of you that asked about what's happening in the future, unfortunately, we can't talk about that. Those of you, some of you did have actually very specific questions, and we'll do our best to address that. But it was just really interesting to see that, I think there's, in the Neowin community, you go all the way from people who really love the Hotmail interface to people that are like, no, it's not for me. I kind of need something different. So I just like that broad variety.
Yeah,
I think that's really cool.
Totally. And I just want to add, it's great. Like Nick said, we can't talk about what we plan on doing or anything like that for obvious reasons. But be certain that whenever you guys manifest yourselves, and that's why we're out here. That's why we open this thread up, right? There is an impact, right? People notice. People see what you guys request or complain about, or even compliment. Thank you guys for the compliments too. So be certain that you're heard, and that's why we're here. That's why we're answering your questions. I know we can't answer everything, but be certain that you are heard. It's important.
Most definitely, yeah, and we thank you very much. The next topic we're going to jump into, and again, just kind of briefly mentioning, is ads. We have some feedback from people that sometimes the ads they find are a bit distracting, or they think they're a little bit too big. Again, thank you very much for your feedback. We have passed that on. We're always looking for ways to improve on our ad experience and our ad platform. I think the best scenario for us as a business is to be able to deliver ads that our advertising partners see value in, but then also for our users and our customers to actually get some value out of those ads. So I think the best case scenario is if you see an ad that just makes perfect sense to you, and it's something that you've been thinking about going on a vacation, or you've been thinking about buying a new camera, and you see an ad that advertises something that's relevant to you, and you actually go and act on it, that's obviously a great scenario. And so our goal is always to try and improve that experience, so that it's great value for that there's value for the advertisers, but then it also makes sense for you the customer. So we're always looking to improve on that. Thank you very much for your feedback, and we'll kind of continue to take that in the future.
Definitely.
Number 5.
Number 5. This came up a few times actually. So two-factor authentication, right? Or two-factor sign-in, whatever you want to call it. So we had HTCZ, RemixCat, Crisps, Zeek again, and a few others ask about two-factor authentication.
And this is interesting because two-factor authentication is, as the name suggests, it's creating a second gate to get into your account, right? So it's almost like having two passwords. You enter one password, and you have to enter a second password, and you get in. Right. And people are saying they want that, or some people are saying they need that second level of authentication.
Correct.
So with Hotmail, we don't actually have specifically two-factor authentication, but we have some things that we have some tools that we think are very powerful and useful if you are in a scenario where you think you need a little bit extra security. Before we get there, the very first thing we want to say is make sure that you have account proof set up on your account.
Yeah.
So we call it account proofs.
Yeah. But account proofs would be those types of informations, or alternate email addresses, mobile phones, typical security question, that in case something happens to your account, or you share your computer, for example, it's always good to have, because it's the fastest and easiest way for us to reach you and say, hey, you know what, somebody tried to change your password, was that really you? And we'll send you an SMS, or we'll send you an email to your alternate email address, and you can right away say, hey, hold on, that wasn't me, and not have that account compromised, right? And when you think of the world we are in today with app stores and all this stuff, this is really important, right? I mean, you look at, even in our ecosystem, Windows Phone Marketplace is out there, Windows 8 stores coming out soon, you got your Xbox Live, so it's really important for you guys to add your proofs to your account. I've heard many times, well, I don't want Microsoft, sending me SMS marketing messages or spam on my phone, right? That's not what it's for, and we're not going to do that, right? We ask you for your phone purely for security purposes, to avoid issues like this. So again, mobile phone, alternate email address, security question. We also have what we call a trusted PC. So whenever you install one of our Windows Live Essential clients, so like Windows Live Mail or Photo Gallery, Movie Maker, Messenger, it'll identify that computer as a trusted PC. You can validate that, okay? And Windows 8 will have a similar function as well.
And then if you do find yourself in a scenario where maybe you don't quite trust the computer, maybe you're on vacation in another country and you're in an internet cafe and you need to check your email, but the environment is not something you're familiar with, perhaps you don't trust kind of what's going on around you, we do have one-time use codes, which is basically you would enter a one-time use code instead of your password. So it gets you into your account for that one single time. You can request a one-time code. Yep. How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, so basically when you go to the login screen, you'll see there's the your login address, your password, and right below it, it'll say use a one-time use code. You'll have to have your mobile phone set up for that, because we'll basically text you a one-time use code. So it's a single use code. Then all you do is you just put in your email address and you put in that code instead of your password, and that will log you in for that one session only. Okay?
And so if you are in an environment where you don't trust the computer that you're using, and let's just say hypothetically someone does get that one-time use code, right. It only works one time. Yeah. So once you've used it, it doesn't work anymore, and so someone getting their hands on that code, there's no way they're going to get access to your account. But coming back, so the thing that we recommend, obviously, strong passwords. One of the things we did last year was we banned common passwords. So you can't have 1234. You can't have password.
That's why I got kicked out.
You have to have a strong password now, which is something that a change that we made in order to strengthen account security. We strongly recommend adding your account proofs, your mobile phone, your alternate email address, your trusted PCs and a security question. And then if you have your mobile phone added, one-time codes are a great use if you are in a scenario where you kind of don't want to enter your password, but
definitely
because you don't trust the environment.
Definitely.
But you know, we hear you, the people that have requested two-factor authentication. That's definitely something that you know we've heard that before, and we say thank you very much for that submission, and we'll pass that on to the account security folks that look after the login component of Hotmail.
Definitely.
All right, aliases. We talked about this a few minutes ago. Aliases.
Yes. Let's see.
So we had two very kind of specific questions about aliases that we wanted to talk about. One person said, "Can you change the directory in which your individual aliases are delivered to?" So when you create a new alias,
right?
So first of all, how do we create an alias?
So when you create it, how do you create an alias?
Yeah.
You log into Hotmail. There's actually a couple ways, but the easiest way is if you look at the left pane where you have your folders, your quick views, in your inbox. If you mouse over inbox, folders, and quick views, you'll see a little cog come up, right? It looks like a little tool kind of thing.
Yep.
You click on that, and you'll have a few options. So when you go into the inbox one, way up top, highlight the little cog, click it. You'll see create an alias option. Okay. Obviously, you can find it if you go over to your right where it says options, more options. You can create aliases there too. Okay. So again, what an alias is, it's a full-on Hotmail or Live.com email address. Right. You can create up to 5 of these a year.
Okay.
And the idea is you create some kind of gobbledygook at Hotmail.com. Right. It's associated. It's tied to your regular Hotmail account. But remember, it's not a full live ID. So don't expect to go set it up on your phone or log into it with that address, because it's just that. It's a disposable, discardable email address. Right. Once you do that, Hotmail will give you the option of automatically filtering, filing that messages for that address in a specific folder, okay? And you can even assign a little envelope with a little color symbol on it to differentiate it from your other mail. So the question that we got was somebody set this up, and now they want to edit what folder it goes to, right? So you can do that because since it's being directed to an address, you can go to your rules and set up a rule saying, hey, whenever a message comes in where the recipient's address would be your alias, right? So move it to this specific folder. So you're just going to create a rule. And then in the same rules menu, which is again in options, more options, you'll see the rules menu there, the rules option. You can also designate a little envelope with a little color symbol for it, so you can differentiate those messages from your non-alias messages.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. And then the second question around aliases was around the display name and can you edit the display name? So this kind of comes back to what's the point of an alias. So an alias is not a completely separate identity. It's not a separate Windows Live account. It's essentially a secondary or sometimes a tertiary email address. So aliases are they can be permanent. You don't have to delete your alias, but the whole idea is that it's not for your common use. It's for some kind of secondary use, and it's the incoming address. So the question was, can you edit the display name? So the answer is no, because what's changing here is just the address. So instead of being Galileo at Hotmail, you would be gobbledygook at Hotmail. But it's still coming into your primary Windows Live account, which is Galileo. So if you're looking to be anonymous, wink, wink, you guys out there in the Neowin forum who are looking for some level of anonymity or a different identity or just separating your primary identity and your secondary identity, we actually recommend just creating a new Hotmail account. Yeah. Just create a separate Hotmail account. You can link the ID so you don't have to keep entering different passwords. You could forward the mail from the secondary account into the first account. But if you want a separate identity on the web with a different display name, we recommend creating another account.
Yep, totally.
Cool.
So all right. I want to thank Aroka and Soyuz for the aliases questions.
Thank you very much. We hope we answered them. Questions about spam. Spam's a really interesting one. Yep. When we look at spam, we look about every single inbox on Hotmail, and we look at all the mail, and we look at incoming mail and outgoing mail, and we try and categorize it, and we look at, again, I think I mentioned earlier in the video, true spam, and true spam is what we really think of when we say the word spam, and we're thinking of ads for pharmaceuticals, and we're thinking about counterfeit watches and handbags, and we're thinking about
foreign princes,
scams from country deposed princes from former sovereign nations that need help funneling gold bullion. This is what we call true spam. True spam is a subset of spam. The word spam from kind of like an email industry perspective, it just means stuff you don't want.
Yep.
And that can be stuff you don't want. Could be like
varying degrees. It
could be an email from your ex-girlfriend. That could be stuff that you don't want, right? But then the small the small subset is true spam. Now, true spam in Hotmail across every single account, and we have hundreds of millions of accounts. Every single account is less than 3%. And we said before, if your account's less than 2 years old, you probably see none.
Yep.
But Neowin community, you guys are, you guys have been around for a while. If you have Hotmail accounts, chances are they're probably a little bit older than 2 years. So you probably have a higher percentage chance or higher increase of seeing true spam in your inbox. There are always outlier cases, and there's lots and lots of situations why someone would see more spam than others. A couple of you did have a few specific questions about the spam that you see in your inboxes, and I think we'll probably follow up with you guys offline.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of important for us to point out that spam less than 3%. But grey mail's 80% of your inbox, and I think we feel at Hotmail that we're trying to help educate our users about what is grey mail and how to identify grey mail, because you shouldn't be concerned about it. True spam. Someone's got your email address. They're sending you mail that you haven't asked for. They're not requesting. They're not
solicited.
Yeah, and they're not respecting your request to say don't send me any more mail. In fact, if you say unsubscribe from a piece of true spam, chances are they're actually going to send you more because now they know you exist. So, people should be aware that grey mail is, first of all, it's 80% of their inbox, but that's nothing don't be worried about that. You just need to be aware of it. And if you obviously do use Hotmail, then there's lots of tools that can help you, get that under control really quickly and easily.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and if you see true spam, junk it. And make sure you mark it as junk, because every time you do that, that sends a little piece of data, a little piece of telemetry to our delivery and spam team. And all of that data, from all of the millions and millions and hundreds of millions of users combined, comes together, and it helps us actually identify true spam and set up the correct policies to actually filter that stuff out. So it actually has a benefit for all users.
Yeah, and again, Nick brought this up. We saw a few outlier cases in the questions, and the point is, there's any number of factors to generating spam, from basic things, just like geography. There's certain markets, countries, and I come from I'm not American. I come from Brazil, and I've seen cases where certain markets just don't respect just privacy policies in general, or just natural ethical policies of, hey, if I sign up to this site because I want to buy something, then that site will go and sell my email address to other sites, and we can't control any of that, right? So there's any number of factors. But we work really hard, again, as a Hotmail team, to really keep this thing under control, as we have today, right? But as a company, there's even a bigger initiative going on, right, to take down just the botnets that generate all this stuff, right? You guys might have read about some of this in the news, but over the last few years, we've been working really hard with federal agencies and foreign governments to take down zombie computers and botnets and stuff like that generate spam, not just for Hotmail, but for the whole internet, right? So we've actually, I forget the number, but we've taken down spam on the internet as a whole significantly over the last few years, right?
It's huge. It's huge. There's a couple of posts on the Inside Windows Live blog, which we can link to, that has the numbers and talks about how spam on the internet has come down significantly, as well as spam in Hotmail. But I think the takeaway here is there's a few of you who have said, hey, I've still got a lot of spam in my inbox. I guess we want to help you guys out, obviously, but I suppose the very first question we ask is it actually true spam or is it grey mail? And if it's grey mail, that's awesome, because you've already got the tools right there in Hotmail to first of all, just delete it if you want to get it out of your inbox, and then you can do things like one-click unsubscribe, or you can set up scheduled cleanup, which will kind of stop it from appearing in your inbox, or at least clogging up your inbox in the future. But if you do genuinely have lots of true spam, let us know, and we'll do our best to hook you guys up with the delivery guys, and we'll see if we can get that fixed. And then another question about editing safe senders.
Yeah, so safe senders is one of the tools we've implemented to help fight spam, right? Basically, sometimes you'll get a message from somebody, and you'll see the little yellow bar when you're looking at the message at the top of the message saying, hey, do you know this user? Do you want to add him to your safe senders list? Is he a contact, right? So basically, you can add somebody as a safe sender saying, hey, you know what? Nick Phil here, he sent me a message. He's never sent me one before, but he's a safe sender. I don't want to add him to my contacts list because that's reserved for very special people. Okay, but he's a safe sender, so I'll tag him as a safe sender, and then whenever future messages come in from Nick, they'll land in my inbox, or they won't have the warning, they won't block out content like photos and stuff. Okay, so the user asked, can you edit a safe senders list? And yes, you can. If you go to the options, remember options is in the top right, close to your name. Options, then more options. You'll see it. One of the options there is to edit to manage your safe senders list. So it's block safe senders, and you can go in there and you can basically do two things. You can manually, individually add or remove domains and specific addresses. No wild characters though. So you can add just a general domain like at whatever.com. Okay. Or you can do bulk remove. You can't do bulk add, you can do bulk remove. So you can see your list there of folks that are safe senders or even block senders. You can select a bunch, and then just hit remove and get rid of those. Okay,
sure.
That's basically what you can do.
All right, awesome. Moving on to the next topic, which is Android.
Android, lots of questions on Android.
Lots of Android questions. So first and foremost, yes, there is an official Microsoft Hotmail app. It's a partnership with a company called Seven. And you'll see it in the Android App Store. It says, is it the App Store? App Marketplace? What do you call it?
App Market, I guess.
App Market?
Yeah.
Whatever the Android apps, you know what I'm talking about. And
the
it's
official one.
Microsoft plus
7.
So it's just called Hotmail by Microsoft plus 7. So that is the official Hotmail app. All the other apps out there are unofficial, and we had a question about, how do we go about ensuring that those apps out there aren't doing dodgy things. And obviously we take that very, very seriously. And if we did see any apps that were scams or were involved in phishing, we would obviously get on that as soon as possible. And or we would love to hear from you if you are aware of any apps out there that are not respecting users' data and accounts. But the official app is called Hotmail by Microsoft plus 7.
Plus 7, yeah.
And it's been downloaded like a couple of times.
Pretty exactly. We put it out in October.
Okay.
And it's basically been downloaded, and we have installed users at a rate of about 1 million a month.
Okay.
And it hasn't slowed down yet. So
That's
we're
great.
Somewhere between 5 and 6 million users already using this app. And it's great. The users have given great feedback. And we're definitely looking to improve the app. We recently updated it to support Android 4.0 and above.
Okay.
Even though in the 4.0 versions, the Exchange support, which is what we implement in Hotmail, Exchange Active Sync is pretty robust. So
Okay.
you can go either way with the app or with the native Hotmail Exchange. But the app, has been tremendous success.
Actually, I think that's a good point. What differentiates the official app from the unofficial apps is the unofficial apps are just using POP.
Exactly.
They're just a POP interface between you and your Hotmail.
Yep.
Whereas the official app is Exchange Active Sync. It's EAS. So you get a full mail sync, full calendar sync, and you can actually and contacts as well. Although
Right.
I think the contact relationship isn't full two-way. I think it's a one-way contact.
Yeah, and then we talk to our folks who develop it and do a limitation in the platform itself, in the Android platform in this case. Contacts is one way, so it's cloud to the device. So you can't necessarily add or edit a contact on your phone, on your Android app, in this Android app, and have it update in the cloud, okay? But obviously anything cloud on down will work. So example, you set up your sweep rules and your schedule cleanup, whenever you sync on your phone, it'll respect those rules. So if you're not syncing, your Graymail folder, it won't show up there, you won't waste your bandwidth, you won't waste your data cap, with your mobile provider.
And you can set up the official Android app to sync 3, 7, 15, or 30 days worth of mail.
Yeah, we had a question about that.
Yeah, we had a question about how much mail. I think someone thought it was only 7 days. You have the option 3. It's 3, 7, 15, or 30. So they're the options at the moment.
Right. And then we had a question about aliases on the Android app. So again, remember, alias is not a full-on email address. So I can't go in.
Full-on account. It's
full-on account. Sorry. Full-on account. You can't download the Android app, log in with your alias, it won't work. It won't recognize it. However, if you log in with the full account, the Windows Live account, right, and you have an alias associated with it, you can definitely get those messages. Because again, it's just coming into your regular folders, okay? So if you did happen to set up one specific folder where all the email address to your alias goes, all you have to do is set up that folder to sync on the Android app, and you'll see that.
Yep.
That said, we can't do yet sending or replying from your aliases on these devices, okay? So if you get a message at googlygook@hotmail.com and you want to reply from that, yeah, that is a limitation right now. We're aware of it. We've had a few people request that. So again, we've passed it on. Thank you for the suggestion, but that is a limitation right now.
Yeah, at the moment, if you want to reply from your alias, you need to do that from the web.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, cool. So jumping on to SkyDrive now. SkyDrive is for those of you. Microsoft's a pretty big company.
Right.
Hotmail is, we're kind of part of the Windows family, and part of the Windows family is also SkyDrive. So some of you had very specific SkyDrive questions. We've passed them on to the SkyDrive team, and we'll try and get some answers for you. The two questions that pop out here were a question about default view-only permission. So can you upload to SkyDrive where the default permission is view-only? I thought that was kind of interesting, but we're not sure about the answer. We'll find that out. And then was some questions about Opera and Opera support there, which we'll endeavour to get the answers for you very soon. Next was attachments. We had a lot of suggestions on some things people would like to see with attachments. To clarify, there were a couple of users out there, a couple of guys out there that thought that the attachment size limitation was 10 megs. Not sure what was happening there. The attachment size limitation, if you're doing a traditional email attachment on Hotmail, is 25 megs. So you can have up to 25 megabytes worth of attachments via a traditional email attachment when we think about attaching something to email. But you can get 100 megs
if you do it via SkyDrive.
Through SkyDrive.
Right. So we have the option, if you're using Hotmail, you've seen it. Whenever you upload something now, we'll ask you if you want to upload it to SkyDrive instead. There are any number of benefits to that. Number one being you can use basically 100 megabyte per file attachment size, right? If you upload photos, for example, if you attach photos and you do it via SkyDrive, you get this really cool photo album, nice thumbnails, you can edit the name, you send it out to folks, they'll click on the photos and they'll get taken to SkyDrive with a nice full screen view of the photos. If you're doing Office documents, there's the big advantage there is you avoid versionitis, as I like to call it, right? So you're emailing back and forth, project 123 version 3.56, edited by Nick Phil, and then he replies back version 3.47 and all that stuff. You avoid that stuff because if you upload it to SkyDrive, it's in the cloud, right? Whenever a person edits it, it's saved to the cloud. All he has to do is reply back to the email and say, hey, I've updated it. And SkyDrive maintains version history of Office documents, so it's really cool. You can just click on a document. There's an option for version history. When you click that, you'll see all the versions that have been saved of that document, and you can revert back at any point in time, right? So it's really handy in that sense.
That's awesome. And the great thing also about using SkyDrive for attachments as opposed to the traditional attaching the file to the email is that your email is like a couple K in size. It's tiny. It's basically just text that contains links and permissions back to SkyDrive. So that way you can send that mail anywhere and you're not waiting. You're not uploading 25 megs worth of data or 100 megs worth of data. Someone's not downloading 25 megs or 100 megs of data. It's a much more efficient way about sending attachments.
Definitely.
And then we had some suggestions for people that would love to see just basic drag and drop. There is drag and drop support for obviously when you use SkyDrive. If you decide to use your attachments via SkyDrive, you can actually drag and drop files onto the little widgety thing there. But I think the request is can I just drag a file from my desktop onto the email? And that's a great suggestion. It's something that we've definitely passed on. All right, next topic, and I think we're over halfway now. We'll see if we can speed up some of these. Is brand and talking about the Hotmail brand. And some people said, I think Hotmail service is awesome, and you guys have done a great job. Or I really like what you've done in recent years with the Hotmail service, the actual email service. But I don't relate to Hotmail, or I don't like the Hotmail brand. It doesn't resonate with me.
Or I can't get the account I want.
Exactly. So maybe your name's John Smith. What's a really popular name in Brazil?
Jose
Smith.
Jose.
So maybe you have a popular name, or maybe you have a nickname or some kind of alias that you use that's already taken, and you really want that. So a couple of options. First of all, we have lots of geographic variants of Hotmail. So if you're in Australia, hotmail.com.au. If you're in Brazil,
we do have .br.
The live.com domain, which is from kind of the previous years, is still available if you want to sign up for a new address using live.com. But another thing that we think is kind of interesting to the Neowin community is custom domains.
I love custom domains.
So if you own your own domain, or you want to go out and spend $4.95 on cheapdomain.com, I made that up, so probably is a real thing, you can actually bring your domain to Hotmail, and we'll actually manage it for you and allow you to use that domain on the Hotmail service. So if you have foo.com, if you own that, you can bring it to Hotmail, we'll manage foo.com for you, and you can basically create as many email accounts you want against that domain.
Yep.
And they're full service Hotmail accounts. So it's mail, contacts, calendar. You get access to, you can sync it to your Android and your Apple devices and your Windows Phone 7, and you can use it on Xbox Live. It's a fully functioning Hotmail account, but you just don't use the hotmail.com email address. You will be whatever you want at foo.com. You administer it. You can add and remove. I use it. You use it.
I use it, yeah. And like we were talking about before, one of the benefits of the Hotmail, of using Hotmail, and this applies to custom domains, is the ecosystem, right? So, for example, today I log into my Windows 8 machine, my Windows Phone, my Xbox Live gamer tag is my own personal domain, right? And we always say this, but obviously, if you got a small business or a company, you're starting a business, that, it's not even, don't think about it twice. You go out, you pay $5 a year to have your domain, and you have this great service you can use, right? You get SkyDrive, full SkyDrive, email, obviously, you can create, like Nick said, literally hundreds of accounts against this domain, all for free, right?
Yeah.
So it's really great.
I bought my surname, and I administer that for my family, and all my family have their name at oursurname.com, and it just functions like a Hotmail account, all the features of a Hotmail account, but you use your own custom domain.
Definitely.
So domains.live.com.
Domains.live.com.
And it's relatively simple. You sign in with an existing Hotmail or a Windows Live account, and from there you add the domain, and then we'll give you some MX, some text, and some server records, and you need to go into your DNS manager on whoever it is that's administering the domain that you purchased, whatever the domain company is, and you just enter in those MX records. There's a mandatory one, there's a couple of optional ones. It can take anywhere from a few minutes to about 48 hours for all the DNS settings to get updated. But once it's updated, Hotmail now manages that domain for you for free. We don't charge you anything for that, and you can create as many accounts as you want. So we think that's a great solution.
Great solution.
All right. Quick one is security. We had a question about how do we go about avoiding malware, especially in kind of infected attachments. Very simply, we before any mail hits your inbox, we scan it for malware, and if there's an infected file, we don't deliver it to you. You just don't see it. And likewise, we also scan all the outgoing mail too, or at least the stuff that you upload. So if you want to attach something to Hotmail and there is some kind of infected file, somehow we'll let you know that as well. So you can be pretty much certain that you're not going to be receiving malware through Hotmail, and we'll do our very best to ensure you don't send it as well. So that's a pretty simple one. I don't know if anyone out there, I think it might have just been a question about malware.
And I'll give users a couple tips there, which I think are pretty helpful. Again, Nick used to work in Microsoft subsidiary. I used to work too, so we've traveled the world a bit, and email habits are different around the world. We see a lot of countries, for example, that love to send those PowerPoints, inspirational PowerPoints, via email, and those can be compromised at times. So great suggestions for use in Hotmail is whenever you get an email with what is a literal attachment or a physical attachment, as I like to call it, whether it's photos or a PowerPoint or an Office document, you can use both Office web apps and our active views, so you don't download that attachment and open it up natively on your computer, right? So when somebody sends you photos, we'll have the active view where you can click on the photo, not download it, it'll just open it up in your inbox and you can see the photos right there. So you don't run the risk of downloading a corrupted file or, a malicious file that's just renamed as a JPEG or whatever, right? And the same for Office documents. If somebody attaches a PowerPoint or Word document, sends it to you, you have the option of opening it in the cloud with Office web apps, right? So you avoid, again, downloading it and running that potentially malicious file. Obviously, like Nick said, we do our work to make sure that none of these are infected or malicious, right? But there is that option. Given the power of the cloud, you can use those two features, which are pretty handy, actually, to avoid those scenarios.
Definitely. But to answer the specific question from this particular round, yes, we scan all incoming and all outgoing, and we pretty much do everything in our power to not deliver anything infected or not let you deliver anything that you've inadvertently uploaded that's infected. All right, so the next topic that you guys had questions about was calendar. And one of the first questions we had around calendar was, can you sync and exchange calendar with Hotmail calendar?
Right, and the answer is yes. There's a couple ways you can do this. You can either, on your Exchange calendar, you can share it out via basically like an iCal, right? So it's a publicly shared calendar or with a few people. But that method is best because it'll update. So you can subscribe to that calendar in Hotmail and you'll get all the updates. The other alternative is you can export the calendar via an ICS file and then just upload that file to Hotmail calendar, import it that way. The downside to that is that you won't get updates, right? Mm-hmm. So it's basically a static picture of whatever your calendar looks like at that moment in time. So you can just export it, upload it to Hotmail. And obviously you can do the inverse. So you can share out your Hotmail calendar with other users, whether it's via, again, just web, or the ICS file. I often use an example that I have. I subscribe to a TV show calendar, so it's basically just the shows I like to watch. I picked those out. I created a web calendar. I got that feed, imported it into Hotmail, and now I can see on my phone, my computer, whenever there's shows like Fringe is Friday night, all that good stuff. So I can subscribe that way.
Cool. And the import method there is probably best for like a historical import. Like if you're changing from if you've got an Exchange account from an old job or something, a one-time import of like historical data is probably the best method for ICS. The sharing subscribing to a publicly shared calendar is another great solution. A question about syncing tasks on mobile devices. And also searching the calendar. So these are both suggestions that we thought were great, and we've passed them on to the engineering team. At the moment, there isn't a way to sync tasks on mobile devices, and I believe that the calendar search. You had a solution for calendar search, but you said it's dependent on the client. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. So again, we don't have that yet in the web interface. You can't search your calendar, but if you are syncing your calendar with Outlook or Windows Live Mail or other clients that support search, they'll be able to support those. They'll be able to search that calendar without a problem.
But those were great suggestions, and we've passed those on.
Yep.
All right. Moving on to contacts. So I think there was a general question. I think there was a few there, but I think the first question was somewhere along the lines of, what's the best way to manage my contacts? So I've got lots of contacts. Should I be using the web interface? Should I be downloading a client? I know for me, you like the web. I personally like using Windows Live Mail. I think the Windows Live Mail interface with contacts is great. I'm kind of familiar with that, but you're a big fan of the web.
Yeah, again, from my perspective, the web gives you the most leverage, right? Again, if you think about how Hotmail is made and, in terms of features, you'll always get the most features on the web, right? I mean, that's our top priority. It's universal. Everybody has a browser, every computer, every platform, all that you can access via the web, right? So that's where you get the most features, where you can set up all the rules and stuff. And for contacts, it's the same thing. It's where we'll provide the most features, right? So you can, for example, connect to other services like Facebook or even import your Gmail contacts through Federation that we provide, stuff like that. You can manage duplicates, remove duplicates, and all this good stuff. Create your groups or categories, as we call them. Mark your favorites. All that you can do on the web, right? So I personally do it on the web. That's how I do it. You like to do it via Windows Live Mail, which is fine.
Yep.
Again,
Thank you.
Yeah, totally. Assuming the calendar, the software supports the sync. Sure. Obviously, that's important.
No, thank you for approving my use of Windows Live Mail.
I try, Nick. I try. I like, again, for those of you not familiar with Windows Live Mail, it's actually pretty good software. It's great. Free email client, supports Hotmail and many other email services. But yeah, so you can do it either way. When you're on a client like, for example, iOS 5 and above or Windows Phone 7, you can actually do all the editing and managing on your device, right? And it'll sync in the cloud, which again is because of the EAS protocol we're using. So I do a lot of that. I'll meet people and just put it in my Phone 7, and then when I get home or log into Hotmail, the contact is there too. So it's pretty handy in that sense.
Cool. There were some questions around the social networks or other services that we link in with. There was I think one person specifically said, do you connect to Facebook? And someone also said, please don't connect to Facebook, which was good to see. The answer to please connect to Facebook is yes, sure. It is now done. We connect in with Facebook, we connect in with LinkedIn. There's actually dozens and dozens of services and social networks that Hotmail can connect with. And if you go into the managing of your account, I think it's top left corner where it says link services or add services, and you'll see there's a big long list of them, and two of the biggest ones that we do link in with are Facebook and LinkedIn, but the full list is there. Another question about importing contacts and importing more than 1,000 contacts, which is kind of crazy. We definitely support having more than 1,000 contacts. There are some caveats around that, though. Yeah,
and again, this is strictly due to security concerns. Mm-hmm. So what happens is with a brand newly created Hotmail account, we'll just watch it and make sure it's not an abusive account. So again, it's not a spammer. Somebody creates an account, sends out millions and millions of messages. We don't allow that, right? So new accounts go through a validation process, basically, right? And one of the limitations is contacts. You can't import too many contacts when you first open the account. One way to get around that, so to speak, is you can sign up for Hotmail Plus. Mm-hmm. So Hotmail Plus, again, for about $20 a year, you get no ads, you get a fully verified account, so that you are a trusted sender, so that you can import thousands of contacts, so you can send out hundreds and hundreds of messages, all that good stuff, okay? But again, for a brand new account, for security purposes, we don't allow the import of more than 1,000 contacts right from the get-go.
Right. A question there about do we have search as you type contacts? And the answer is both yes and no. When you're in the compose message window and you start, typing in the to or the CC or the BCC, that is search as you type. So as you type A, we'll start dropping down the list of all your contacts starting with A. So yes, in that scenario. But I think the other scenario that might have been the request might have been for was actually in contacts and searching in contacts. Yep. You can search your contacts, but we don't have search as you type when you're actually in the contacts editing. So not yet, but great suggestion. And then the question about groups, which groups are, as in groups is I think the word we use on Windows Phone. Is that correct? So you create a group which is like multiple contacts. It's a group of contacts.
Right, exactly.
But in Hotmail we actually call it something different.
We call them categories.
Right.
Yeah. We know it's confusing.
A little confusing.
Yeah. But yeah, we call them categories. So if you go to your contacts, you'll see manage categories or just categories. You can add multiple recipients, name it something like soccer team, school group or whatever, work group, and then you can email that group. So when then you go to compose a message in Hotmail, you can just type out soccer, and then it'll automatically search, automatically fill in, it'll filter the list of your contacts, and the group, the category will be there too. Okay. Just for further clarification, we do have groups in SkyDrive. We do call them groups. That's a different concept. That is, again, you can create literally a separate SkyDrive for a work group, for a study group, for whatever kind of group you want. You invite people into that with Live ID. They have their separate calendar. You have your own little list, mailing list, right, tied to that group's address, because it is a specific address. So it's like soccer club at groups.live.com. Okay, that's what we call groups today officially in the Hotmail SkyDrive Windows Live interface, right? What the user requested was kind of like a mailing list, as we call it here at the company, and those would be categories. So you can definitely do that, yes.
Okay. Now the next three kind of topics, or the next topic that we want to talk about is all about protocols and requests that we've had or questions about protocols. A couple of you asked about SMT support. So that's the ability to send mail from another email address that's not your hotmail.com or one of your linked, one of your aliases. That's an interesting request, because the request is basically saying I'm aggregating mail in from another account that's not Hotmail. Maybe it's a Gmail account, maybe it's from my ISP, and they want to be able to send mail back out directly from that email address. So at the moment we don't have SMT support. You can we do what's called send on behalf of. So so for example, if you do aggregate your Gmail in, you can reply to that message, but it will come from your Hotmail account and it will say on behalf of your Gmail account. So the question around SMT support, we don't have it. It's interesting. It's an interesting concept. Right. We've definitely passed that one on to the protocols team. And I don't know. It's an interesting scenario. I think it's from Neowin. We also had questions from a couple of you around. It sounds like you have Apple devices, Apple PCs, and you're using OS X, and you've asked for a scenario for your Apple computers. And or you've asked about IMAP, and IMAP's kind of a really interesting thing. I think Galileo, you mentioned before that the most fully featured scenario for Hotmail right now is on the web. and we work really well, or I should say we strive to work exceptionally well on all browsers. So the common denominator for all internet enabled machines out there, whether it's Linux or Mac or PC and various versions of Windows, is a web browser. And so we make sure, first and foremost, Hotmail works fantastic in the web browser, and that's where the fullest set of features, the most set of features, are accessible. The second level, kind of underneath that, is probably devices,
right?
And we mean that's your mobile phone or it's your tablet. And Hotmail works fantastic on Windows Phone 7. We have full EAS support in iOS devices. A much easier setup in iOS 5 and beyond. The official Android app is obviously full EAS, so you get that rich experience. So we think we have a pretty good story now on devices,
right?
And it's only going to get better because we're only going to kind of invest heavily on that. The kind of third scenario is probably this third-party client,
right? Like
scenario.
Desktop software, basically.
Desktop software.
Yeah.
So it's people that don't want to use the web, or aren't, or maybe they do use the web primarily,
right?
And then they also have a device, but they also have a third scenario they want to use,
right?
And that's a third-party client or a piece of desktop software. Now, if you're on PC.
Right. We have a couple options,
yep.
right? If you are an Outlook user, definitely download the connector, what we call the connector. So it's the Outlook connector for Hotmail users. We actually put out an update recently in, I think it was October, November of 2011. So it'll provide you the best experience in Outlook. Even today, if you go to an Outlook, something like 2010, and you try to set up Hotmail, it'll recommend you download the connector, okay? Obviously, you can set it up via POP, but that won't give you full experience, like full sync with contacts and calendar. It won't respect your rules and stuff like that. So there's a lot of benefits to using the connector. Again, that's
it won't see your rules. Doesn't know your rules exist.
Exactly. Sorry. And again, those are for Outlook users. They'll respect them, right? And so that's for Outlook, paid software. Then, as we mentioned before, there's Windows Live Mail, right? Which you can just go to download.live.com. Okay, you'll see our Windows Live Essentials suite there. So Movie Maker, Photo Gallery, 2 great pieces of software, Messenger, Windows Live Mail's there. Writer's a great piece of software for blogging too. So Windows Live Mail would be our free email client, and that's just full support, for the Hotmail stuff. Great, again, just native support. So you get all the good stuff like your folders, sync, your calendar, your contacts, all that stuff. Those would be, again, the desktop email clients, third-party support, okay, for Windows specifically,
mm-hmm.
right? And then, Nick, for Mac and Linux users, what would we recommend?
Well, I think, Hotmail, again, is designed kind of our first use case scenario. Again, that common denominator, what is common across everyone that uses Hotmail on a PC or a computer, and that's the web. And so Hotmail is designed for the web. So if you are currently on Mac or you're on Linux and you're and you want the most out of Hotmail, you want access, you want all the features, then really the web is going to be the best experience for you. You do have the opportunity to, if you do want to use a third-party client, like if you want to use Thunderbird, or if you want to use another piece of software like the Mail app on Mac OS X, you can definitely do that. But the only protocol that is kind of common across all those is POP. And POP's great, but POP's just mail, so it's not calendar and contacts. But if you do want that full featured experience, then the web is kind of going to be your best bet. Now, people ask for IMAP, and I think IMAP's kind of interesting. IMAP's an older protocol. It doesn't support full two-way sync on mail, calendar, and contacts in the same way that EAS does. So for those, even if IMAP was available, it's not going to solve all the problems.
Right.
I definitely the feedback that we're going to pass on from the Neowin communities back to our engineering team on your behalf, the feedback we'll pass them is that, hey, there are customers out there that are using Apple in particular, I think is what you guys mentioned, who would like a more robust protocol options. Something a little bit better than POP3 and more modern. So that's definitely feedback we'll pass on. But if you're on those platforms, we think the web's going to be the best experience for you, and we work great in pretty much all browsers.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
Or all the major browsers.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, and again, continuing down that road, a lot of questions about Exchange Active Sync, right?
Yes, Exchange Active Sync.
Yeah,
yep.
so.
And a couple in regards to Windows Phone, first of all. So a couple questions about flagging email. So can you flag email on Windows Phone? And the answer is yes.
You can flag an email on Windows Phone, right?
Yep.
And then there was also a question about searching the server, so messages on a server.
Yep.
and that right now is impossible. Right?
Yes.
So if you have your Hotmail account set up in your Windows Phone, you can search your messages. Obviously, those that are downloaded. You can download all your Hotmail messages to your Windows Phone if you so choose to. Okay, and then obviously you can search there because they're all there. But we can't right now search the server, the Hotmail server. Okay.
Right.
And again, thanks to your questions, we're definitely passing this on to our engineering team.
I'm just going to get my phone because if you are accessing a Hotmail account on your Windows Phone device, you can just go into your Hotmail account. Obviously, you guys can't see my screen, but I'm just going to quickly mention it. You go into Settings and then Sync Settings, and from there you can download email from the last 3 days, 7 days, 2 weeks, last month, or any time. And you could choose any time, and that's going to download potentially a lot of email depending on how old your account is and how much you've used it. And then when you search locally on your phone, it'll search the local copy of your mail. So at the moment there's no server search, but you can kind of get around that by syncing more or less mail on your phone. HTML support in EAS. This is interesting. I saw 2 people mention it. Perhaps it's a bug, or not a bug, but perhaps an idiosyncrasy you guys are seeing with something that you're doing. Maybe you're using a client that has a security setting turned on and off. But to answer your question, yes, there's HTML support in EAS.
It could also be. I saw this at another time, but it could be the email marketing solution that the company, the vendor's using to send you the message. It could auto-detect possibly where it landed, and it'll render differently, given that it's on a mobile device or on the desktop client. But the protocol itself fully supports HTML, so it doesn't have to do with the protocol.
Yeah, we're not stripping HTML out of your messages via EAS. And don't forget too that if you are looking at messages, that sometimes aren't come from trusted senders. Like sometimes we don't display pictures straight away, as Galileo mentioned, if it's a newsletter. So it could just be that. But to answer your question, HTML fully supported over EAS. Let us know if you've got some additional things that you're seeing that don't match with that. Reply flags. So I think the question was around a reply to a mail on my Windows Phone. Mm-hmm. Does my account know on other devices and on other experiences that I've replied? So is that reply synced to back up to this?
Oh yeah, totally.
The answer is yes.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so if you reply on your Windows Phone, that we know your account knows you've replied, and the next time you log in on a different device or log in via the web, you'll see that's been replied, the mail's been read, etc. So that's all synced. Again, question about task sync.
So task syncs specifically, the to-do lists in Windows Live Calendar or task, same concept.
Task.
Yeah, so task specifically.
Task. Task sync.
Task sync. So those right now for Windows Live for Hotmail, they don't sync, right? It's again something that we've heard from users before. They've requested it, and we are working on it. If we could recommend a workaround, which is exactly what I said, it is a workaround. It'd just be to use your calendar for that, because we do support calendar. You can create multiple calendars in the Hotmail calendar, so you can literally name one tasks or to do and put those things there. And then when you sync with your devices, you'll see the different calendars, right? So whether it's your phone or your desktop software, like in Outlook or Live Mail, you will see the different calendars, so you can separate them even based on color. So that would be the workaround, but we know that folks do want task sync.
All right, cool. And then a quick question around, is there native Outlook support for Hotmail? And the answer is, so if you have Outlook and you like to use Outlook, you do need to download, we call it is it the Outlook Hotmail connector? The Hotmail Outlook connector?
It's the connector.
It's the connector, the Hotmail connector for Outlook.
You can search for either one, you'll find it.
You'll find it. It's just a very small download, and it basically allows you to hook your Outlook into Hotmail. And again, you get full EAS support, or active sync support, through Hotmail. So you get full mail, calendar, and contact sync. So you do need to download that little bit of software in order to get your Hotmail account functioning full through active sync in your Outlook account.
Right. That said, let me just... and I've said this before, it's important to know that when you do go to Outlook and you try to set up a Hotmail account, it'll automatically tell you to download the connector. It'll do it. It won't send you to the website. It'll do it right there.
Oh, so it knows.
Okay. It knows. Again, it's not native in the sense that you can just put it in and it's set, ready, set, go. But it'll tell you. It'll say, hey, you need to download and install the connector. So it'll do that. And the connector is auto-updatable in Outlook. So if you have it installed, and let's say you set up a new Hotmail account, or you had it installed, never set up a Hotmail account. First time you do it, if there's an update for the connector, it'll let you know, and it'll install it there on the spot too, which is pretty good.
Cool. All right, now we've got a couple of just kind of quick questions and requests, or just kind of questions about Hotmail we can go through. There was a question around archiving and how to archive. This is a really interesting one. Gmail has an archive button.
Yeah.
It's very simple to set up an instant action in Hotmail that does pretty much the same thing. I've got this in my email account. So I created a folder called archive. So left-hand side, create a new folder, archive. And then I went into instant actions. So top right, options, more options, and then instant actions. Yep. And I created just an instant action button that just sends that mail to the archive folder. So that whenever you're in your inbox and you hover over, I've now got an instant action that just one click sends that mail to the archive. So that's something you can set up. And some people, will want that functionality. Some people will want to add a category to it, or they might want to flag the message, or there's tons of things that you can do. Instant actions are actually quite powerful.
Yeah, those are actually new. They came out in December, right? With the rollout in December, and they're little icons that appear as you hover your mouse over your messages. It just allows you to triage your email really quickly, right? So you see the sender, the subject. You can mark as read, or you can leave it as unread to read later. You can delete it, you can flag it, and then you can customize some actions like what Nick suggested. You can do a move action. You can mark it as read when you move it. So a really common scenario we see is for folks that like the archiving concept that Gmail introduced. Again, since we have virtually unlimited storage, you can archive as much as you want. Just put a folder there, do an instant action. Whenever you just click it, it'll mark it as read and throw it in your archive to get it out of that folder.
The nice thing too is that sometimes you might want a couple of archive options. So maybe you want 2 or 3 instant actions. One goes to a personal archive. The other one might go to maybe you're also managing a small business, or you have school stuff, and you can have a school archive, etc. So you've got the flexibility there to go and create custom instant actions. Okay, some of the other quick questions here. So can I customize the font for plain text emails?
Right, and the answer is no.
No, I think the premise behind a plain text email is that it's just text.
Yep.
You don't have any control over it, and that way it keeps the message even smaller again. So unfortunately, no. Mark as read
as a sweep
action.
Right. So we don't have that either. Right now, sweep is basically move and delete.
Okay.
Right. But what you can do, you can mark as read. There's a mark as read command that you can do for the page that you see, right? So 35 messages. Or if you want, it's more of a cumbersome process, but if you have a ton of messages from a sender you do want to mark as read, you can sweep it to a folder, go to that folder, right-click it, mark everything as read, and that's done.
Right.
Right? That's a different example too. So.
Okay. The question about do we have a Gmail Labs equivalent for Hotmail, some kind of sandbox, a developer sandbox?
Right. So again, we don't have that either.
No.
It's not something we have in Hotmail.
Okay.
But,
is Hotmail also an RSS reader?
No, it is not. Hotmail handles only email. That said, if you do use Windows Live Mail, our free desktop client, you can subscribe to RSS feeds there.
Okay. Can Hotmail users send read receipt requests?
Nick's making me the bad guy. No.
You're also known as the expert.
I'm the bad guy. No. So right now we currently don't implement the sending of a request for the recipient to mark your message as read or confirm read. Obviously, if somebody requests this from you, we will respect that. We will reply to the service, mark it as read or I read it, but we don't send the requests, right?
Because usually a read receipt comes in and says, "Hey, this person's requested a read receipt.
Yeah.
Do you want to acknowledge or ignore?"
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think that functionality is Hotmail treats that the same way it would come in through your Outlook Exchange account. But I don't believe we don't have the ability to request those read receipts. A couple of interesting, great ideas. A quick reply, just the ability to not have to load a new window in order to reply to a message. Excuse me, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. That said, there is a halfway there.
Halfway?
We have right-click commands, right, in Hotmail, which is actually pretty cool.
Yep.
So you can just right-click on top of a message, not even open it, hit reply. Will open a new, reply message and a new reply window. So it's not an inline reply, but at least you have that path. You don't have to open the message to see it and then hit reply. You can just right-click it and reply to it.
Cool. And then a PDF viewer or a PDF active view preview.
Right. I think the comment we saw in the question was, well, today Silverlight supports, viewing PDF files.
Yep.
So why can't we do that in Hotmail, right? And again, it's a great suggestion. We're obviously in sync with the SkyDrive team, and we've passed it on to engineering, so we hope to have that in the future.
And then an interesting request, an iGoogle style page, which is interesting because I think that's what the Windows Live homepage is.
Yeah.
Like when you log into your Hotmail account, you have a home page, or you have your inbox, and you can choose which page you actually want to log into first. I personally go straight to my inbox. Do you do that, or you go to the home page?
I go to my inbox, and it's kind of funny. It's one of those things where we saw a couple other users say, "Please get rid of this," right? And today it is optional, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, if you go to your Windows, if you go to your settings, your account options, you'll see there's Windows Live and there's Inbox or Mail. If you go to your Windows Live settings, the first option will be when I log into my account, I want to see the Windows Live homepage or the iGoogle, as this user called it, right? Or do you want to go to your inbox, right? So it's optional, but we've seen the majority of users prefer the inbox. I mean, they think Hotmail, they think email, they want to log into their email, right? Yeah, not a profile page.
And if you are currently logging into your Hotmail account and you are seeing this home page and not your inbox, and you're like, how do I get to my inbox? So it's under options.
Under options.
Top right, options, more options.
More options. And then in the left-hand side, you'll see options for mail, and actually Windows Live right above mail. So obviously mail options refer to Hotmail specifically. Click in the Hotmail in the left-hand pane, and then you'll see some options for what would be this profile page. And the first option is, what do I see when I log into Hotmail?
And you can change that back if you want to. Cool. So moving along, we're almost at the very end here. Thanks everyone for your patience.
Yeah.
We'll do some shout outs in a minute. So questions about notifications. Do you say favicon or do you say favicon?
I call it favicon.
Favicon?
I have no idea.
The question was, is it possible to have a favicon or a favicon that updates with the number of new mail messages that you receive? And the answer is yes, that's already implemented. There's two caveats that you need to have the site pinned, obviously in IE9, down to your taskbar, and the page needs to be open so it can actually retrieve those new mail messages.
Right.
So if you have Hotmail open, if you're using IE9, it's pinned and you have it open. As new messages come in, you'll see the icon down the taskbar will increment 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, blah, 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 as new messages come in, which is kind of cool. But there was two requests, actually, I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
For sounds. People want sound notifications.
You've got mail sound. They want the
You've got mail. Tom Hanks.
I'll be the mean guy there. We don't
Ryan?
have that. Meg Ryan, Tom Hanks.
Sleepless
in Seattle.
No, You've Got Mail. That was the movie.
Oh, it wasn't You Got Mail? I thought it was
Yeah,
it is. Yeah, same character.
It was the same movie,
same
I think.
Yeah, actors.
They just put a different jacket on it.
My bad.
No, it wasn't. It's a different man. Ask for sounds. At the moment, no.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd love to hear from the Neowin community if they have any like hacks or little tips and tricks to somehow get notifications, custom sounds. I don't know. I'm sure you could probably do it with like custom Windows alerts. Somehow,
probably. Like
taking a cue from the pinned
probably.
favicon or whatever. At the moment, nothing at the moment, but we'd love to hear from you guys. We had some questions around Microsoft's privacy policy. A question about SkyDrive now. Microsoft privacy policy, if you're interested in the full text of the privacy policy, it's at the bottom of the page. So log into Hotmail. In fact, any Microsoft page, if you go down the bottom, you'll see the privacy policy. You can click on that. There's a full kind of microsite or component to Microsoft.com that talks about privacy. I don't know the intricacies of the privacy policy well enough in order to talk about them here. So if you are interested, I do recommend you go to that particular site. Very down the bottom, you'll see privacy, and you can get that information. There was a question about SkyDrive and scanning content that's uploaded to SkyDrive. I believe there's and why do we do that? Why do we scan it? Again, we're not the SkyDrive team, so we'll go and get the full answer from them. But just off the top of my head, I'm thinking two reasons. I'm thinking one, we want to make sure there's no viruses. We want to make sure there's no malware.
Right.
So we scan stuff initially just to make sure there's no malware, and the second component, I think we to make sure that there's no illegal stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Stuff where the authorities need to be notified for some particular reason.
Exactly.
But we'll try and get an answer for you guys for that from the SkyDrive team that's directly. Search. Second last. We're almost at the very end here. So search. Question was, can I select all messages from search results?
And yes, you can. It functions much like selecting all messages within just your regular folders. So if you notice, there's 35 messages. There's a little box so you can select the messages to the left of the messages. And there's a one up top right below the action bar where it selects all the messages that in the current view and the current page. So when you do a search result, you'll see again the pages of the results, right? You click that little box, it'll select the 35 messages, but then there'll be a little blue link says, click here if you want to select all messages in the search result. And then you'll select all those messages in the search result and you can perform your action there.
Yeah, and so once you do select all messages, that could be 1,000 messages.
Yeah, exactly.
It could be 36. It could be just one extra message on another page, or it could be 1,000. But yes, you can. And another search question was about, can you sort search results?
Yeah, and again, yes, you can. Right. So you do your search. What you'll see is in the reading pane, or where your messages are, you can sort in the top right for you guys. You can sort in the top right. From based on sender, date, stuff like that. Just that basic sort. You can sort it that way. So you can look there. What else, Nick? We're almost at the end.
We're almost at the end. One question. Maybe you can look it up for us. And who asked that? Easter eggs.
Easter eggs.
Are there any Easter eggs? Easter eggs obviously refers to, not that we have to tell the Neowin guys, but obviously refers to little fun bits that developers have put into their code. Fun little things to find. I think one of the classic Easter eggs was it Office 2000 that had a flight sim? Did you ever play that?
I think it was Excel, right?
Was it Excel?
Something like that. Yeah.
So little Easter eggs like that.
Yeah.
I think from an industry, the industry trend at the moment is kind of moving away from Easter eggs, so that companies kind of know what's in their code. But I will say, to the question of are there Easter eggs in Hotmail, I think we'll say maybe.
We'll say maybe. And
that
was Winaxter who asked
it. It was Winaxter. So Winaxter, if you can find an Easter egg, you let us know. And we'll see. We may confirm nor deny it. There was a question around popularity. How popular is Hotmail? It varies a little bit because sometimes people are very active in their email account for a month. Sometimes they don't use it for 2 months. Some of you don't use your accounts for 9 months on end, but then you quickly come in and use it, and then just to extend it. So it's somewhere in the vicinity of hundreds of millions. So hundreds of millions of people are using Hotmail every single month. And depending on who you go through, Comscore is one company that that monitors and measures the use of email services. Hotmail's the number one email service in the world in terms of active users. So it's in the hundreds of millions. It's pretty big.
Yeah,
I think that's
pretty big.
That's probably a good way to answer it. Marketing plans. That was interesting. People were interested in kind of what are we doing in a marketing perspective. What would you say to that, Cal?
What would I say to that? We're actually doing a lot, and this is part of what we're doing, right? If we were to say what we're doing this year, and that would be the fiscal year at Microsoft, right? We're basically telling people the Hotmail story, right? As many of you might know, Hotmail. Some people don't see it in the eyes that we see it, obviously. So we're going out there and telling our real story, right? And that started a few months back with a campaign that we called Another Look at Hotmail. So you can go to www.anotherlookatHotmail.com, where we say, hey, you know what? Hotmail is actually really good at the fundamentals of email, right? But we weren't, at one point in time or another, we really weren't, and we acknowledge that, right? So this website and this,
2004 to 2006, for example, like spam's a really interesting one to talk about, because in that time frame, 2004, 2006, true spam in the average Hotmail account was as high as like 34%.
Yeah.
Like it was high. There was a lot. And so we acknowledge that during that time frame, Hotmail kind of fell behind the ball a bit.
Yeah, and again, and this website is really interesting. You guys can see, the typical cases of when a user comes to us, or even to you if you're an active Hotmail user, and say, you're using Hotmail, why? It's so slow, it's so spammy, it doesn't work on mobile phones, it's only got like a 10 megabyte inbox, right? So those are all the common misperceptions from that time frame, and we know that. And so what we set out to do this year is really show people that, hey, you know what? We got it. Yeah, it wasn't that great, but we've done a ton of work over the last basically year and a half, 2 years, to get our essentials, our fundamentals up to best in class. So again, today, spam, we're best in class. We're up there with the best of them. We have research from third parties showing that, hey, if you create a new Hotmail account, you're basically going to see, as little spam as any other major provider, right? Storage, virtually unlimited, right? So keep on hoarding your emails if you want, right? Experience, performance. We used to do full page refreshes when you just clicked like on a reply or a folder, so we're really speedy now, right? And then finally the mobile. We talked a lot about mobile today, but implementing Exchange Active Sync gave us the ability to sync across devices. Smartphones, we're on all major smartphones today. So again, we started off talking about the fundamentals, right? The essentials of email. And today we feel really good about those, right? And now we're talking a little bit about, why is Hotmail different, right? Like the first question we had. Yep. What makes it, better or differentiated? And, we're talking about Graymail, right, Nick?
Yeah. And I think Graymail is really interesting because when you think about it, if you log into your Hotmail account right now, and maybe Neowin guys, you guys are on the ball. You know what's happening. But think about maybe your mum or your dad or your brothers and sisters that use Hotmail. Maybe they don't yet know about the sweep features or schedule cleanup, and that's obviously our job to inform them. Right. But if they don't know about it, there's a very good chance that 80% of the mail in their inbox is going to be newsletters. It's going to be updates from Facebook. It's going to be updates from Twitter and Pinterest and Quora and all their social networks. It's going to be daily deals. It's going to be Groupon. It's going to be Living Social. It's going to be offers. And this is going to be 4/5, sometimes more, of the email that's in their inbox. And when you kind of stop and think about it, you go, yeah, you know what? A lot of the mail that's in my inbox is this stuff. I've signed up for it. Right. I asked for it. Sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly. So it's not true spam in that sense. But people need some help to kind of tackle that and to kind of get their inbox under control and help find the more important stuff. And we firmly believe that Hotmail has the best tools to do that. Right. So in terms of that we're focusing at the moment on conquering Graymail. If you go to conquergraymail.com, that's our current kind of marketing push for Hotmail. You'll see there's some funny videos up there. We tried to personify the concept of Graymail.
Yeah.
So you'll see one video. There's a woman living in a house with sumo wrestlers, and the sumo wrestlers are
they're the Graymail, right?
They're the Graymail.
Of the important things.
There's another guy who's got little British newsies. Newsies, is that the
something like that?
Oh, hello, I've got something happening. And the newsies are constantly, interrupting everything that he's doing, saying, "Hey, you've got another social update. Hey, you've got another deal." And this is all about kind of personifying what is it like to have your inbox or your life completely inundated with this kind of stuff. Now, the good news about it is because this isn't spam, because this is legitimate mail that you signed up for, and because the senders respect the relationship you have with them, you can set up Sweep to do a kind of a one-time bulk delete or remove. You can set up schedule cleanup to create rules that gets rid of the future messages that come in, and you can also use things like one-click unsubscribe if you do want to unsubscribe it, and we'll help you with that process of unsubscribing from a piece of Graymail. So Graymail is really it's a topic that people it's a word people don't really know the word Graymail. Yeah. Like it's kind of a new word,
right?
And it's a concept that kind of we're trying to educate people about because it's something people should be aware of. It's 80% of their inbox, and we feel like Hotmail has the best tools.
Yeah, definitely. So again, to wrap up that question. We started off by telling this story of, hey, it's Hotmail. Yeah, we weren't that great back then, but we're doing really good now. We're really proud of what we're doing. I think we nailed the fundamentals. We're definitely drinking the,
we now make mugs.
We now make mugs. That's what we're getting into now. Mugs. We'll have T-shirts coming out soon.
And we actually, I think some of our favorite questions, we might be sending some. We might send some things out to you guys. We've got a little cupboard full of T-shirts and stickers and mugs and stuff. So let's see.
We might. Totally. Again, just wrapping up. Yeah, we're doing our part. We're trying to go out there. That's why we're talking to you guys. It's part of the job. You guys you're always out talking to folks. People ask you about technology. You guys are the ones that recommend technologies and products, and people look to you for your advice. That's why we're talking to you. We want to make sure that you get our story straight. Right. This is what Hotmail's about. This is what we're doing today. These are the features we have, we don't have. We want to be completely honest with you guys, and hopefully this was, this cleared up some air for you guys. Hopefully this was worthwhile for you. We know it's a long video.
It's very long. We didn't realize it'd be this long. Just for the record, we thought this would be like 20 minutes, and I think we're like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to kind of follow on that from Galileo. So when I think about Neowin, I think about geeks in the best sense,
but
helping other people and helping other geeks. And I think you guys are fantastic because you know so much about technology, the broad spectrum of technology, and you guys are just helping each other, and you're helping people that come in for the first time, and they're like, hey, I got a problem with this, or I got a question about this, or I need to know something, or I need some recommendation. And the Neowin community is always in there providing help, providing reviews, providing support, and we thank you guys for doing that. So we wanted to help answer your questions and help kind of provide you guys with a bit more information that you might have about Hotmail. We always want to hear from you guys as well, even outside of this. So someone asked, is this the only time you'll be doing the video? We hope to do this more in the future.
Right.
But if you ever want to contact us, is Twitter the best way?
Yeah, Twitter. So the best way to reach us on Twitter is Team Hotmail.
Hotmail.
We do have the official Hotmail account, but you guys can imagine, it's...
Hotmail gets a little bit inundated with stuff.
It does. So reach us out. Reach out to us at Team Hotmail. Okay. I'm Galileo MS in the Neowin community. Reach out to me. I've talked to a bunch of you offline already. Anytime you guys have any questions, concerns, feature suggestions, please do reach out to me. And yeah, we're always available.
All right.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
Right,
we hope to see you at the next Neowin thing.
See ya.